Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. Quick shout out to my newest patron, Max F. Thank you for choosing to support the channel. Hey guys, just a quick FYI. Today I had all kinds of computer troubles. I'm honestly impressed I was able to get a video out, but please just bear with me for today's episode. First up today, according to some new Lobbyist registry documents in Quebec, it looks like Tesla has hired a new critical minerals strategist in Canada. Say hello to Alim Ladak, who previously worked as a senior mineral economist and battery mineral advisor at the Ontario Ministry of Energy, now of course working for Tesla in government policy for critical minerals and supply chain. Of course, there's been a lot of activity from Tesla in the Canada region over the past few months and really the past few years. This hire definitely seems to be setting the stage for a future Gigafactory. I'm just not confident it's going to be the next one, at least not yet. The goal here clearly is for Ladak to be the guy that builds that relationship with the Canadian government and lays the groundwork, so if and when Tesla decides to build a Gigafactory there, and of course when it comes to raw material sourcing, all of these processes can happen in an expedited fashion. Next up, today's the day that Biden announces the first $900 million that will go to 35 different states in the form of grants to build out new EV charging infrastructure will become available. Remember, the total amount is $5 billion over the next 5 years. Not only that, but at the Detroit Auto Show, Biden also expected to announce that the US government purchases of EVs has also risen dramatically. In 2022, agencies have acquired 5 times as many EVs as all of last fiscal year. Granted, it's coming from a very low base because in 2020, less than 1% of new federal acquisitions were electric, and then that doubled in 2021. The US government owns over 650,000 vehicles and purchases 50,000 new vehicles every year. Here's just some rough math for how far this $900 million may go for this first round of funding. If you divide that by, let's just say the average cost for a DC fast charging stall is around $150,000. That's about 6,000 stalls. Then divide that by, let's just say 10 different stalls per station. That's about 600 charging stations that this first round could pay for. Then once again, this is to be distributed across 35 different states. So that's about 17 charging stations per state from this $900 million. Now, of course, some states will get more than others and some stations will have more or less than 10 chargers, but you get the idea. Here we have some more information coming out of that information day that was held around Giga Berlin on Sunday. Automobile Volca reporting that ramp up of production in the new factory is progressing very well. Remember in yesterday's video, if you missed it, we talked about how some of the 4680 production capacity for Berlin is going to be shifted over to Giga Austin so Tesla can capitalize on the Inflation Reduction Act incentives. If you missed that video, it'll be linked above. Additionally, according to Tesla, 2.2 cubic meters of fresh water are used per car. This already includes the planned in-house battery production in Grünheide. According to Tesla, this is compared to the industry average of consumption of around 4 cubic meters of fresh water per car. Let's put this into context. So the 2.2 cubic meters that Tesla is using in fresh water per car is equivalent to 2,200 liters. And then 2,200 liters is approximately 581 gallons of water that Tesla uses per car, meaning if the industry average is about twice what Tesla is using, the industry is using around 1,000 gallons of fresh water per car made. This was actually from Ford on World Water Day last year. Just some fun facts, I'm not implying anything here, but of all the water on the planet, only about 1% is easily accessible fresh surface water available for consumption for the people on the earth. Around 97% is salt water, while the majority of remaining fresh water is frozen in ice caps and glaciers or difficult to access groundwater. Sticking with Giga Berlin, there was set to be a vote on Tesla's upcoming expansion at Giga Berlin. However, that seems to be delayed indefinitely for now. Now, I will say this is being blown way out of proportion in my opinion, and I'll tell you why in a second. Real quick, just FYI, as I was recording, my Google Chrome has completely stopped working. I've tried a bunch of different things, so now I'm going to use Safari, but without my highlighter tool, at least for the rest of today's video. But back to the reporting, it's a little bit vague because earlier this year, these expansion plans for Tesla have already been approved. And it was recommended that the municipal representation initiate a procedure for a new development plan. However, the mayor of Grünheide, Arnie Christiani, removed this item from the agenda shortly before the meeting. There's still a need for clarification. This is the reason why the development plan is not on the agenda in the coming meeting. And he said he cannot estimate whether the topic will be dealt with later this year. With these expansion plans, Tesla's been looking to add around 100 hectares to the existing footprint of around 300 for things like the freight depot and some other activities, but this really isn't a huge deal. Right now, Tesla's still focusing on the Model Y production. This isn't like stopping what's going on there with vehicle production. This seems to be more for that new train station we had talked about. Now, maybe there's going to be limitations for incoming parts that would supply the vehicle production, but for now, I wouldn't really worry too much about this. Moving on Twitter, J Group said that we need a sweet train model rather than just Tesla semis back to back. And scrolling down, Elon said true, so maybe we'll get that in the coming weeks. Here we have Tesla's chair, Robin Denholm, with a few comments just basically defending Tesla's presence in China and their plans to actually expand its footprint in that market. She said, "We're building factories around the world. Our view is the world is going to EVs and batteries that are lithium based, and we need to be in all of the major markets around the world." And just one quote I wanted to point out, she said, "Producing vehicles on continents is important because, again, when you're setting a supply chain for the long term, you want those miles those cars travel before someone actually owns them to be the shortest possible. That includes shipping and sea freight because all of those processes add to CO2 emissions." Next up, we knew this week Jim Farley was talking to the Ford dealers in the network about what needs to change moving forward, and we get a lot on what's actually been said. Ford is asking its nearly 3,000 dealers to invest upward of $1 million to upgrade to sell Ford EVs. Ford is offering dealers the option to become EV certified on 2 different levels. The first, lower level, will require an investment of $500,000, and the next level up will be $1.2 million. Dealers in the higher tier, which carries upfront costs of $900,000, will receive elite certification and be allocated more EVs. Dealers have until October 31st to make a decision, and then will have until the end of the year to actually make the investments. Farley said, "We're betting on the dealers. We're not going to go direct." This is a pretty big line. "But we need to specialize." So basically, Ford is asking smaller dealers to specialize, pick a lane. EVs, internal combustion engine cars, or commercial vehicles. He continued, "The main message I have for the dealers, which I've never said before because I didn't believe it, you could be the most valuable franchise in our industry." No surprise here, but Farley said, "We've been studying Tesla very carefully over the last several years." Ford's going to take a different approach than GM. They will not be offering buyouts to any of the dealers. They're just going to allow them to opt out and not sell EVs if they don't want to, as they're saying they want to give dealers the choice and not force them one way or another. And in addition to the financial investments, the dealers that opt in to sell Ford's EVs will have to abide by 5 new standards. Clear and non-negotiable pricing, that's a big one, charging investment, employee training, and improved vehicle purchasing and ownership experience for the customer, both digitally and in person. The head of Ford's National Dealership Council, Tim Hovick, said the dealer body wholeheartedly agrees with Jim's assessment. "We very much want to be the most valuable franchise out there. We're big fans of that. It's really all about growth." And lastly, dealers who opt out of selling EVs this year will have the chance to opt in again in 2027. Next up, there was a new study done by some researchers at Oxford University that is basically highlighting how the transition to renewable energy can actually save the world trillions of dollars in the decades to come. And this is one of those that's good to bookmark and share with people when they have doubts about this transition. From the summary, compared to continuing with a fossil fuel-based system, a rapid green energy transition will likely result in overall net savings of many trillions of dollars, even without accounting for climate damages. I just want to highlight the prices of fossil fuels like coal, oil, and gas are volatile, but after adjusting for inflation, prices now are very similar to what they were 140 years ago, and there's no obvious long-range trend. In contrast, for several decades, the cost of solar, PV, wind, and batteries have dropped roughly exponentially at a rate of 10% per year. The cost of solar photovoltaics has decreased by more than 3 orders of magnitude since its first commercial use in 1958. I haven't yet had the time to read through this as much as I'd like to today with all of my computer issues. It's taken up a ton of time this afternoon, sadly. However, once I have the chance to, then we may come back to this in the future, but this will be linked below. Moving on, a new TrueCar survey for EVs shows that that interest in electric vehicles in the United States has grown since just March earlier this year. Since March, the percentage of consumers reporting they would consider an EV as their next purchase grew from 52 to 59%. And the percentage of EV rejectors has gone down from 24% down to 19%. And one more point, the proportion of consumers concerned about the cost to charge an EV dropped dramatically from 54% down to 42%. And I'm sorry guys, but I have to cut today's video short. I need to figure out what's going on with my computer right now and make sure this isn't a long-term problem, but I'm gonna try to edit it and get it uploaded as soon as I can. Lastly though, this is not a Wall Street Journal exclusive if you're an Electrified subscriber. Once again, we talked about this in yesterday's video. That'll do it for today. Please like the video if you did. Thank you for your understanding. Huge thanks to all of my Patreon supporters, and I hope everybody has a wonderful day.